Brothers, welcome back. Today we're going to be covering the Bone Necromancer. I'm going to give an example of how to run through a T4 dungeon with tips as I go through it, the build overlay, as well as gear suggestions. Hopefully this is going to allow you to push further and enjoy your time in Sanctuary even more. As always, if this does help you, don't forget to like and subscribe. But there's going to be a lot to talk about, so let's get into it.
You got to just press record.
Alright, so as you can see, we're just coming in. It was just a random tier 32 that I had just laying around. So I'm going to go over exactly what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, when I'm doing it. And I did want to do the Stormbane's Wrath just because I think it's easily one of the most annoying suffixes that you can run a dungeon in. Just because of how it follows you, it teleports to exactly a spot you don't want to be. It's just that constant repositioning. But as you can see, I'm doing two things. One, I'm always going to target the the damage reduction enemies first. That's my first priority. And the second thing you're going to see is I'm doing a lot of kiting. I'm going to kite. I'm going to kill one of the weaker enemies. And even though with this build you don't really need to do that, because as you can see that was just a 1.1 raw crit. So it can hit 1.1 million, which is more than enough to kill an elite at this stage. But even so, just to be safe, you usually want to kill a weaker enemy right off the bat. Use your number one, which is the Corpse Tendrils, which is going to pull everyone in. And then that's going to guarantee that you're going to one-shot that enemy. As you can see, just killing a little bit of time there. That was a 3-point-something million crit. It's really just a compounding damage increase based off of a couple of things. And those are things that we're going to go over just a little bit later. But I believe this dungeon in completion was less than 5 minutes, and it's a very survivable, very quick build where you're allowed to just run past a lot of the trash mobs without a lot of fear of dying. You can, of course, still die, but it's going to be hard to do. So I'm just running past all the trash mobs, not really ever concerned that I might die, and then I'm doing a long-range snipe of a damage reduction enemy. So those elites, you want to get rid of them as quick as possible. Now, I do want to note that this is not, by any stretch of the imagination, an in-game build. There's still so much more that you can do to maximize the damage. There's people hitting 32 million, and as you can see, the worst dungeon, just because of that Stormbane's Wrath. But there's people who can hit 32 million. This is just a modest beginner's guide into how to make a Bone Necromancer. And if you guys like it, I'd really like to be able to push and get to the point where I'm also hitting 32 mil and then show you guys, just how it's possible. But running through here, again, I'm doing what I told you a couple minutes ago. You want to kill that first enemy, and then use your Corpse Tendrils, pull them all into it. And if you ever do run out of mana, or essence in this game, your number 2, and I'll show you in the build guide just a little bit later, how helpful that is, because it's going to get you your essence back to the cap as quick as possible. And we really want this guy to be at least near max essence at all times, just because of the damage increase that we're going to get. So you can see now we're told to kill 3 constructs, immediately target the damage reduction enemies, get them out of the way as soon as possible, and then I'm going to go for the rope, and then try to pull everyone in. So there we go. Got everybody lined up. A little bit of a twirl for you guys. Pull everyone in. And then if you're going into it just to save a little bit of time, what you can do is you can pop your, get out of jail free card there, which is right now on my number 4. And this build is more than capable of just one-shotting constructs, so it's destroying buildings instantly. And you'll see I popped my Bone Storm there, and there's a couple reasons. One, I've got the Stormbane's Wrath close to me. I want the damage reduction from the Bone Shield. 2, I'm trying to get a corpse on top of that as soon as possible, because suppressors are a Bone Spear Necro's worst nightmare. And for a couple reasons. One, you're not going to get the bounce back from the vulnerable, which a lot of times is what, one-shots the boss. So we're going to kill something, pull him into it, and that's going to guarantee us, that quick kill. And you'll see I usually will drop a curse on top of everyone. That's one, make sure I have 100% complete essence, so I can hit as hard as possible and guarantee that one shot, one kill. But we're going to run down. We only have one more to go. Run to a room full of a couple elites. It's not too hard. You can one-shot elites. Again, pull the pack into it, And even if you miss, this build is good enough that the shards coming back more often than not are enough to one-shot elites. But there's the last skeletal construct. Got the boss to kill, one shot, and tier 32 done. But it's a very good build. Okay, so now that I've showed you how it works, I'm going to show you why it works. And this is not a sponsor, but you can get an overlay, and you're just going to press Tab Q, and this is from Overwolf, and it's going to pull up a build guide. And this is not just Necromancer specific. They have Barbarian, Druid, Necro, Rogue, and Sorcerer. And you can click on any of these tabs, and it's going to show you, your S ranked builds, your A ranked builds, B, C, D. You get the picture. So I'm going to come over into Necromancer, and I followed just this guide to a T, right? And it's going to tell you everything that you need to know. So put in that 1 point into your basic attack, and then it's going to show you go into Bone Splinters, go into Enhance, go down into Acolytes, and it's a simple guide that you can use this. Sure, it doesn't have a leveling guide, but it's pretty self-explanatory as you go along. And then when you get into your Book of the Dead, what you want to sacrifice, it goes into your two-handed weapon, your gloves, amulets, ring, the whole deal. And then your stat priority, it's just going to be ranks of Bone Spear, crit chance, crit damage with bone skills, and attack speed. And it goes over every single weapon, what you want to put in there, and it's just an overlay straight over the game. So there's no thinking about it. You know exactly what you want when you want it. And I would absolutely recommend this to anybody who's a noob like me, and you need that kind of benefit to be able to catch up to everyone else. Okay, so that was the build. I'm just going to go over the gear, and I tried my best to be able to do exactly what the guide tells you. Obviously, with Diablo 4, it's kind of weird because you're going to spend a lot of time getting gear, and a lot of the time the gear's not going to be good for you. So there's going to be a lot of that repetitive going back and forth, grinding a dungeon, getting a piece of gear. It's absolute crap. Toss away the gear, and then you have to keep going. So trying to follow them, you absolutely do not need the Deathless Visage. I know that it's recommended on the guide that I just showed you, which is, again, is Tab Q. It's an overlay into the game, so you just download it anytime you need to reference it. It'll just pop open. So it does say, hey, Deathless Visage is good for you. Absolutely not mandatory. It's a great piece of gear, though, because it's always going to come with total armor, phys damage, crit damage with bone skills, and maximum essence, which are all great for our build in terms of survivability and damage, but not mandatory. I know a lot of other people will say to use Topaz because that's going to reduce the damage you take when you're CC'd. And while that is good, I personally prefer more maximum life just to ensure that I'm not getting one shots. So I understand both sides, but we also have a get out of jail free card with Blood Mist, which again you only need 1 point into. So I really don't see the need to put points into reduced damage while CC'd, because you can always just get out of that damage by using your Blood Mist and then healing up to full. But you can see there's going to be a reoccurring theme here where I'm going for phys damage, crit damage with bone skills, and vulnerable damage. So you see bone skill damage, physical damage, armor, and then life. And then I am trying to change these. The gloves just aren't the best. And then, as you can see, I'm just going through damage to close enemies. I'm obviously trying to change my weapon as well. This isn't the best. So damage to distance enemies, vulnerable, and core skill damage, and then making sure that I put in the highest level emeralds that I can, because I do want that vulnerable critical strike damage to vulnerable enemies. And this is going to be one of your biggest damage increases, and that's putting a 30% increased critical strike chance for 6 seconds when you cast Corpse Tendrils. You deal 90 times, and you see the X, that's not plus, 90 times bonus critical strike damage to enemies damaged by Corpse Tendrils. This is where a lot of the damage where you see people, killing Uber Lilith in a couple of minutes, that's where that comes from. It's a huge damage increase, and it just cannot stress that enough. And then the second big one is your Ossified Essence Key passive also increases the critical strike damage of your bone skills by 1, and that's a plus, 1% per essence above 50 up to 40%. Huge damage increase. All right, so this is a guide for dummies, for noobs. So I'm not going to go super in depth into the Paragon tree. If there are a lot of comments on the guide and you guys would like to know more, I can absolutely go into the weeds here. But I don't want to overwhelm somebody. This is more geared towards somebody who's starting. They're getting more accustomed to the early game. They're starting to push maybe a little bit into the mid game and possibly into the late game. So obviously at level 82, I'm on my 4th board now. And that's just honestly, it's overwhelming for a lot of people. So I will say just this. I would go for the exploit glyph, the amplify glyph, and the sacrificial glyph. And I think those are going to be, your three primary ones that you should go after. Again, I can absolutely go further into detail here, but I don't want to smother people with, more knowledge than what they need right now. But I absolutely can if you guys do want to request it. So I'm going to hop off. I still need to go kill Uber Lilith, and for that I need about 18 more levels. So there's a lot of grinding left for me. This guide is fantastic. It's capable of one-shotting elites. You're going to absolutely carry anybody through the Legion events. You can. I think I three-shotted the Legion boss once everything got set up. Just a lot of 3-mil crits. It's a fantastic build. Absolutely cannot stress enough just how much fun it is. So I'm going to hop off. I got a lot of grinding to do. If the video did help you, please do think about liking and subscribing, and I will catch you in the next one.